Peter Wiley, good to see you. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this conversation. Excited to learn a little bit more about your journey with Hothead Burritos and how y'all have expanded. And I think it's going to be a really helpful conversation for anybody listening of how to expand your company really rapidly. And so I'm excited to learn more. But just to kick it off, tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you get into this? What excites you about it? Excited to learn.
Yeah, I kind of have a long family history in restaurants. My dad goes back to helping develop Pizza Hut when it first started. He actually went to college
Wow.
with the founders. And so that's long before I was born, but
Sure.
that gives a history. Eventually, fast forward to my time really getting in restaurants. There's a brand called Skyline Chili here in the Midwest based out of Cincinnati.
Nice.
And when I was in sixth grade, we moved to Tallahassee and did a Skyline Chili down there with some investors. And then eventually, so I was waiting tables on FSU campus at 12 years old in a Skyline Chili.
Oh,
They were
nice.
full service. That was pretty
12
entertaining.
years old. Wow.
Yeah, with a
That's
bunch of
awesome.
college people around it, And this was like
Yeah.
Bobby Bowden heyday FSU football, right?
Yeah. Wow.
So that was pretty entertaining. About a year and a half after that, we moved. A different set of investors brought us back to Columbus area.
Okay.
And they really wanted to expand Skyline, same company.
Yeah.
Expanded outside of Cincinnati into more of Ohio. Again, it was pretty segmented or pretty narrow market. And we actually helped convert it from a full serve, which obviously requires some more staff. And I'm 50. So again, this was quite a while ago.
Sure.
But so I was working in those restaurants and we did that for I guess 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. So 3 or 4 years in there. We developed them with my brothers. I have 2 brothers. One's Chris, one's Ray, and I have a sister. They're all at least 9 years older than I am. So again, I'm the little guy here, and we built it out in Dayton. I lived in Columbus. We did them in Columbus. We also did Toledo and some Cleveland stores as well. So our mission, if you will, at the time was really to expand Skyline Chili. So we did that for a number of years. Ended up moving back to Seattle and still worked in restaurants, right? So waiting tables, bartending, expoing, fast food, just anything.
Yeah.
Worked for several churches, in and out, back and forth with restaurants. And fast forward a number of years, and my brother Ray started Hothead Burritos in 2007, and basically recruited me when he started it. I was living in Bend, Oregon at the time, and doing graphic design, and so helped him with initial logos. A group of team I worked with, we were doing some of the radio commercials for him, did the website for him, all the social media, and then eventually moved to Ohio a couple years later. I think about 2010, 11. So lots of restaurants in my background. Ray's background. When we got out of Skyline, he stayed in Subway. So he was a Subway franchisee for 26 years. A number of restaurants. Had a couple partners in there too. But yeah, when Chipotle got really started blowing up, he's like, they weren't franchising. So he said, I've got a lot of experience. I've always wanted to be a franchisor. So game on. And that's what started it in 2007. And then we've kind of been growing ever since. We first couple stores, got going, and I still wasn't here at that time, but eventually moved out. And then we ramped up when we were opening, a couple of, at least like one a week for a couple months at one time period. It was fast and furious. Then obviously COVID kind of slowed down everything for a number of years. And, now we're trying to kind of ramp back up, but kind of how we got where we are now. We're at 83 locations in, I believe it's 7 states. Mostly centered around Ohio, right? But we got one in Texas, a couple more in Indiana, a couple in Kentucky, a couple in New England. So that's kind of the journey in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, your burritos were delicious. They saved my life on a very long road trip from North Carolina to Chicago.
Yeah, that is a drive, man. How many hours was that?
Well, we also have 4 kids, all under 7.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was a good 17-hour drive. Sometimes we try it in the middle of the night so that they can sleep. But
Right.
on the way back, I was like, I just can't do it. Let's just do
It's
it during the
fun.
day. We'll take a few more stops.
Yep.
And actually, it only ended up taking about an hour longer. But yeah, seeing the hothead burrito sign gave me a bit of life when I saw
That's
them.
cool.
Because I was like, oh, nice. I know this brand. So let's
Yeah.
stop there. So I was super excited about it. But yeah, I'd love to hear. So you were mostly involved in the marketing side. But I
Yes.
know you also do quite a bit with the finances. How did that all come about?
Yeah. We eventually started adding some more restaurants. So I had a nephew acquired a couple restaurants and we were helping back him. So I kind of stepped into the back office role in that scenario. So, managing the bank accounts. I'm not super good at QuickBooks, so I do have an accountant for that one. So thankfully, um, but really hands on as far as all of that. And then a few years ago, we acquired a franchisee who was retiring up in Youngstown. So at this point, I now oversee 10 restaurants, 10 hot-head burritos, 2 in Toledo, 2 in Cleveland, and 1 in Green, kind of mid Ohio, and then another, what did that leave, 5 in Youngstown, I think. So and I've been doing that for, gosh, a number of years. So I still do all the marketing for the brands, marketing and IT director for the entire brand, and then oversee these restaurants, which I have, supervisors and great operational teams in place, but still manage the back
Yeah.
office. So kind of how that
Yeah.
migrated.
So wearing a lot of different hats.
Yeah, quite a few. I juggle lots
Yeah.
of plates. Try to dabble a little bit in everything. I like tech, so I can handle numbers. So I could do quite a variety of things.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to figure out what I really like to do, right, and then
Yeah.
delegate the rest. So
That's
that's a
the
little bit of
challenge as
a
a business owner. And
yeah
it's sometimes
adventure.
fun to do all the different things,
It
but
is,
eventually
but
you got to
it may not be
choose.
the most efficient or best use of my
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear, what's been some of the biggest challenges along the way? I mean, obviously starting from the ground floor, one
yeah,
location, all the way up to, in the 80s now. What's kind of been some of the biggest challenges that y'all have had to navigate?
yeah. I say early on it was just as we really started to grow, it was just managing the growth. I mean, you're juggling
Yeah.
when you're opening one restaurant a week, even if, for a couple weeks in a row, right? You're like, man, I got help them get all their orders, right? Yeah, all the equipment orders, right? Get the signage,
Yeah.
get all these different pieces. We probably have a 150 point checklist, for a new store opening, and you're
Wow. Yeah.
managing all of those. We had somebody managing it, but still, it's just a lot. And I'm
Yeah.
doing the marketing. You're like, well, I got marketing campaigns. You're trying to get going with all of them. So, working closely with our ad agency. So that was really the biggest challenge, just so many moving pieces. And when you kind of haven't done it before, it's a learning curve, right?
Yeah.
And
For
again,
sure.
you figure it out and you get through it. But it's like, wow, there's a lot of things that go into this to
Yeah. Yeah.
make a restaurant open, fast.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. How quickly were you guys opening them?
like I said, there's several, I think a couple months where we opened one a week, I think probably like 2 or 3
Wow.
months. So we had a real ramp up, kind of did one. Then my brother did a second one. Then he started out in a couple, I think we got to 5 or 6 corporate stores. And then our first
Okay.
franchisee came on board, friend of my brother, and she's now got 7 stores. But,
Wow.
just kind of kept adding and adding. And then we had some really good national press. Believe it or not, you go back to AOL, right? Some article
Okay.
came out on AOL
Nice.
a long time ago, and just
Yeah.
really generated a whole bunch of leads. And then
Nice.
again, long-term relationship with Subway franchisees, and being in the restaurant business for a long time. My brother had, lots of people watching what was going on. So
Right.
that challenge, I think everybody will associate or relate to the last few years. It's really been labor for staffing. Getting good team
Yeah.
members or getting team members has been a
Yeah.
challenge. Thankfully, that has kind of slowed down, or I'd say improved. And so
Yeah.
it allows you to, now it's kind of, okay, we can get back into open mode or growth mode.
Right.
It was, how do you grow a brand with almost, when you hardly can't staff your own restaurants, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge challenge. That's a huge challenge. What's been your experience? I mean, you and your brother being both on the franchisee and franchisor side of it. How was that transition? What was kind of some of the big learning curves you had to do, or big, kind of aha moments on being at the other side of it, that
Yeah,
maybe you didn't expect before?
I think the best part about it for us and the franchisee coming in is we are operators. We are franchisees. And
Yeah.
when we make a decision, financially impacting decision, you're
Yeah.
impacting us 20 times. So it's not like,
Yeah.
oh, this is the franchisor thinks this is a good decision and they'll have to worry about the ramifications. Not saying franchisors do that, but certainly anytime there's a comment, we're switching, like we just rolled out a new bag, right? It has higher costs than our old bag. Right? Well, we understand it costs more, but it's a better presentation and
Right.
it impacts us technically more than any other single franchisee because we got 20 stores we operate. Uh,
Yeah.
so I think it helps and it helps keep us grounded, right? Not doing
Right.
something just to do it. You think about how does it impact the single store operator, the multi-store operator, and the brand. Sometimes there's a little bit of a compromise, and sometimes we don't do things because we're like, well, that's going to be tough on everybody, and we appreciate the financial aspect of when you make changes to a restaurant, operationally
Right.
or marketing or anything, because we're impacted just as much as everybody else or more. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's super interesting. I'm sure that's, as a franchisee, that's super valuable to have, the franchisor having been on both sides of that and really
right,
understanding, really having walked that road before and understanding how those decisions actually flow down to them and impact them.
yeah.
I imagine that is super huge, for those franchisees. And so what's been the strategy along the way? So as you're, how do you, I know a lot of times when we're talking to people, big questions around how do I finance the growth? How do
hmm
I, what's the strategy for kind of getting the funds needed to open both the corporate stores as well as support the franchisees on their journey as well? How does that work?
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, especially as interest rates have gone up. Thankfully, they're coming back
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
in this 2025. But when we first kind of got going, my brother had relationships with local banks. Just a couple good. We find good success working with local banks and know the local market. Again,
Right.
he's been in Dayton 30 plus years at this point, so got good long term relationships, and that certainly helped facilitate the corporate growth, right? So it'd
Right.
be a combination of private capital, his funding, and then working with local banks. Some were in an SBA scenario, some were not SBA. They're just conventional loan. But we definitely used that. We didn't bring in any outside capital, although there are a couple partners, but they're kind of partners not only in the franchisor but in the store operating stores as well. So it's not just
Yeah.
a hands-off type thing. For franchisees, we try to again put them in contact if they're in our area with our banks, because once they know us as a brand, it makes it much easier for them to loan. So if we have
Yeah.
10, 20, operating stores, and especially when you get in 50, 60, it's like you got to establish brand. We know, what it takes to succeed. They're looking at, what's the ROI, what's your rent going to be, we know what we're
Right.
doing. So it gives them a lot
Yeah.
more confidence to lend to a franchisee. Uh, and then if the franchisees, going through their own sourcing, then we can provide all of the data and say, here's the average stuff. And all of our finances, for the most part, from a franchisee perspective, are in our item 19 over FDD. We do.
Yeah.
Some brands don't make that available. We like to make it available because it makes it, public knowledge. We're not hiding anything. So.
Right. Right. Very interesting. And so y'all pretty much took on all the debt. So what would you say maybe for somebody who's at that first location and looking to expand, maybe doesn't have quite the brand history?
Mhm.
How do you, I guess, develop those relationships with, the local banks enough that they're, willing to trust that,
Right.
that you know what you're talking about? How do you kind of, I guess, what advice would you give somebody in that scenario?
If it's a franchise, whether it's us or anybody else, you're in a much easier position. If you're
Yeah.
trying to go get funding and capital for a brand that doesn't, it's a mom and pop or a startup on your own,
Yeah.
that's where it gets challenging. So now you better have a
Yeah.
rock solid business plan, some other secondary income. Most of the time they're, probably unless you have a high net worth individual, they're going to want, sign it on your house. It's a lot. That's a bold move. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So I just say get your finances in order, get your debt in order, personal, because they're going to, it's all personal guarantee at that point. So.
Right. So you got to roll the dice and take the risk if you're not the franchisee with the established brand.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of banks, you'll definitely have more of a challenge finding a bank to lend on that versus you will on a franchise business.
Yeah. So. Very cool. How fast is too fast? I know this is a challenge for a lot of people too, as they're, as they're making these type of deals. I mean, how fast is too fast have you guys found?
I think it really depends on the strength of your system. And, if you have good systems in place and good people or team that can handle it, then you can go very quickly. If you're struggling with it, system, you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants and don't have, just like I said, we got like a 150 point checklist to try to, everything from make sure you get gas and electric and phone and that type of stuff turned on to get in your equipment. Those things make it much simpler to go faster. That's really what we learned as we started to pick up steam. We got to get really organized and be very efficient with what we do, have the equipment in place, have the point of sale in place, have all of these relationships that are, you understand the timelines, you understand, it's not Amazon, right? I don't get an equipment package on Tuesday. It might be 4 to 8 weeks, depending on how things are going. And so you really got to plan through all that. And your construction you're working through, construction can sometimes be a year, depending on the landlord, financing, all of those different things come into play. And I think if somebody probably wiser than me said, if you're growing to grow, just for the fact of growing, that's when it becomes really difficult. But if you're growing to really build the brand, really enhance your profitability, enhance, services to your franchisees, now it just kind of gels. It becomes almost self-regulating. It's like, I'm doing this for the right reason. I'm not just trying to pop up locations. You'll see some brands that they just open 500 restaurants in 2 years and they don't even have a point of sale that has the same data. They opened on I'm going to say a Clover or something that just doesn't aggregate anything and can't handle that production. Not putting Clover down, but an example of you got too fast and you don't have any way to do it. Nowadays with the tech stacks, it's, we're solid on our, we require a certain POS, right? You're using this POS because we have the relationship and we get the data, we get the sales data, we can monitor how your store is doing. So guess that's when it goes too fast. If you start outrunning your supply, outrunning your support, and you just have a whole bunch of franchisees that are like, what's going on? You're like, no, good systems, good vendors, good relationships in place.
Yeah. I mean, just hearing you talking, I can tell y'all have like dialed in systems. Like you said, construction can take a while and y'all had a time to where you were open a store every single week. That's a dialed in system right there.
We try. We try. Keep it simple, keep it simple, stupid, right? Don't make it too complicated.
Yeah. No, that's impressive. And I also hear you talking a lot about, y'all obviously have a very good grasp on your numbers. Like I heard, the price of bags is this, and how does that affect the franchisees, right? And so how do y'all manage the profitability of so many locations? Like, what does that system look like?
Right. It's a great question. From a franchisor, you're looking at a bunch of things. Real estate is not my thing. We have Kelly handles our commercial real estate in office. She's a VP, hothead part owner, and so she's got 20 years of commercial real estate knowledge. So this is one of the key factors. And just from before you even open the restaurant, does the real estate make sense, right? We have a target
Right.
around 8% occupancy cost. And if
Okay.
a franchisee comes to us or we go look at a location and the rent just isn't going to work, you got your average
Right.
AUV and you go, man, that's going to put you at 10 or 15% occupancy costs. Like, don't even keep waste any time looking. Try to find something that's going to be, closer to that 8 where we want to be, because that's your first step for success. If that's out of whack, it's really hard to make everything else work. So you got to have really high volume. As far as managing it in store restaurants, our key is really food cost and labor. Those are the industry standard forever. What works in your brand. What's your labor? Of course, the biggest challenge is labor's gone through the roof. We used to, we still try to use 55 to stay alive. Was something my brothers said forever. You want to try to run 55 between food cost and labor. And if you do that, you're probably going to be okay. And it used to be, maybe 20% labor and 35% food cost or somewhere in there. And some brands are blessed to be able to run much lower on both, depending on scenarios.
Right.
But some locations, man, it's tough to run 30% labor now. I've talked to a couple brands that, because the wages have gone up so much compared to where you can raise the cost of goods, that makes it a challenge. But those are really the two things we look at. And then, like with the bag example, or changing a product line or packaging, again, it impacts all of that. So we're looking at, well, is it worth the trade-off, right? Is it worth the trade-off to improve appearance, improve branding, to raise the cost on something a little bit, and in the long term, potentially increase sales?
Yeah. So basically, you got to know what your concept needs to target on the key metrics. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And it varies, and it varies by volume too. We have some stores. You got a store doing $15,000 a week and a store doing $25,000 a week. It's a whole heck of a lot easier to run low labor. So kind of keep those in mind. Now, it also comes back to when you're picking your location. What do you think it's going to do?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That makes total sense. I'd love to hear, you got the systems in place. Y'all obviously grew very fast. I'd love to hear what's been some of the best financial decisions y'all have made along the way.
That's a good one. I'm a tech guy, right? So I would lean, I have a good relationship with our POS vendor. I think it was that was probably one of our best moves to go that route.
Nice.
Because it allows us to integrate a lot of things, tie in a lot of data. It's not necessarily the cheapest one out there. We use Q. I've been very happy with them. And
nice.
It made it a easy transition for our franchisees. Again, from our previous vendor to this, we actually went with a leasing model, which from a financial standpoint, it made it super easy, right? I'm not outlaying $5,000+ per store to transition from one point of sale to the other one.
Yeah.
It's kind of like amortizing your house. Do you pay a little bit more in the long run? Yes, you do. And we did have some franchisees who just wrote the check up front. But again, if you're looking at it, I got 10 stores. Brothers got 10 stores or 11. And franchisees who have, one, it's tough to write a check for $5,000 per restaurant, right?
Yeah.
So, and we were really doing that anyway. But we kind of found over the previous years is you're replacing the hardware at 5 years anyways, most of the time. So you're writing the check one way or the other. To me, that was a great investment in a way, and a great both financial and tech decision. Gave us the tech we wanted, and made it easy for our franchisees to transition and us to transition to a better platform without a huge financial hit.
Yeah. And it sounds like it supports, what you were preaching earlier around good systems. Good systems supports fast growth. And so that makes total sense. What would you say is one of the biggest maybe mistakes y'all have made along the way?
Man, you don't want to think about those ones.
Be careful what you say.
Yeah. I think really the biggest mistake you can make in any business is just not paying attention. You think you have stuff, you think you have a great system in place, and maybe you do. But if you're not really watching everything, on a per cost basis, down to, your carpet or your rug suppliers, your cleaning
Right.
supplies, your internet, right? We've had internet, you sign up for an internet provider and they're at $50 for the special. And then
Yeah.
3 years later, they're at $350. And it's because it was on auto pay and
You didn't. Yep.
you didn't pay attention. You're the frog in the water. And
Yeah.
when if you don't really dial in on those, and I need to do better, right? I can give you too many
Sure.
examples of that type of thing.
Sure.
But I think that's where it's not that it's a huge financial mistake. It's a bunch of little ones that add up to being a bigger one. And so if you can really pay attention on that, and again, we need to do better on it, but we try to help that through agreements, right? Agreements with our food provider, agreements with our service providers. If we can get a national agreement that locks in a price for everybody for X amount of time, that makes it easy. We don't have to worry about it sliding up.
Yeah.
So
No, that's good. Yeah. No, those little things along the way just eat away at the profitability.
They do. And you wake up one day, you're like, what happened? I mean, I'll give you an example. A number of years ago, when we were first getting into third-party delivery, I turned on a promo for, I think it was Grubhub at the time, and it was a buy one, get one free. I wanted to, get some customers going there. And I thought I set it at, a limit, right? Is how long it would run. Apparently I didn't, or I did something wrong. And you're going along, and like 6 months later, I'm like, dude, you're going through the P&L. There's Grubhub, there's sales. I am only getting 50% of the Grubhub sales because I had a BOGO that I didn't realize was still running for 6 months. So, it's just, we just eats that, $100, $200, $300. Well, it kept growing, right? So at the end of it, you're like, I grew my Grubhub sales, but
I killed it on Grubhub.
I killed it, but I didn't make any money at all, and I lost money unintentionally. So
I mean, talk about hidden fees. I hear the third party, that is the place where those fees tend to pop up for a lot of restaurants.
Yeah, we've really focused on it the last couple of years. Sales pitch makes it really easy with their integration.
Nice.
But you still got to pay attention and negotiate, and you get the chargebacks you got to go after. But it's part of life, right? I mean, for a long time, it's like some big brands didn't want to embrace it, but it's where your customers are. So we've kind of come to the realization, or at least I have, that if you order on DoorDash all the time, you probably don't walk into my restaurant. Maybe you do, but you just pull up DoorDash, right? It's kind of like Amazon. I pull up Amazon and order. I don't go to shopping too much anymore. So if I want your business, I got to go after you where you're at. Therefore, I need to get much better at DoorDash than we have been, as far as how can, marketing, driving sales, getting a return, maybe even converting customers from DoorDash to using our own online ordering. But it's not going away. Don't stick your head in the sand. Figure out how to get really good at it. And that's where we're kind of my focus has been right now.
Yeah. Well, that's very cool. Well, what's next for you? In Hothead Burritos, what are you guys working on right now? Who are you looking to meet? What are y'all working on right now?
Yeah, our main goal is really getting back into growth mode, right? Again, COVID just kind of slowed everything down. We're obviously that tragedy, and then impacting the finances, everything going up, and labor pool just made it really tough for us. And so then now that all kind of leveling out, it's like, okay, game on. Let's go. We're, think we ran into each other at RFDC. I'll be on a MERTEC panel coming up here in a couple weeks.
Nice.
Then we come home for a week and go back to Vegas to go to multi-unit franchise conference from UFC.
Yep.
So we got a booth there. And then we got a couple other ones in Nashville that Kelly will be going to. So really trying to get the brand out there, networking. And, I was shocked when I went to a couple of these conferences, and you run into these brands that have 300 locations, and I've never heard of them. And it's because they're regional, right? I'm in the Midwest and they're in California or Arizona. Obviously not eating them. Like, okay,
Right.
we want Hothead to be known nationally, even if we're not national. So that's kind of our main franchise marketing push right now is focusing on PR, growth, getting our name out there, getting to meet people, really embrace the adventure of, growing the brand.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Well, if somebody wants to be a franchisee, what's the best way to get a hold of you and start off that process?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot on our website. Is hotheadfranchising.com. We have hotheadburritos.com, kind of consumer side. You can click on franchise there. It'll take you over to hotheadfranchising.com. It'll give you a quick walkthrough of all the stats, different models that we got set up, several videos you can watch to find out more about us. But you can send me an email, just peter@hotheadburritos.com. Kelly handles a lot of our franchise sales. Kelly, Kelly @hotheadburritos.com. And we're happy to talk to you, happy to answer questions. Obviously there's a lot of brands out there, a lot of franchises out there. We think we got, a great product, great team. We're excited to be moving forward.
Very cool. Well, I've very much so enjoyed the conversation. I love the tips around letting systems drive growth and also understanding why you're growing. And not just growing to grow, but really bringing the value to who you're serving, both your the people walking through the door, the people on DoorDash, as well as your franchisees, and making it a good experience for everybody.
Yes, that is our goal.
Nice. Well, thank you very much, Peter. We'll talk soon.
You're very welcome. Appreciate it. Have a good day.